Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to CCxRC. Today in this video, we're going to be looking at the brand new HobbyPlus CR18P 1/18 scale 4-wheel drive crawler. And this thing definitely has that military truck vibe going on. Kind of like a Unimog, but, you know, that big old front end down here, very square shaped. So it kind of mixes a couple of different types of, I feel like, military vehicles. But maybe not. Maybe they have other ones that people have done up with a back end like this. But definitely has the stylings we've seen with so many Unimog trucks. Quick look at the features here on the box of this. The new design portal axles, all bulletproof metal gears, front and rear axle. That's cool. Clipless body mount. Now that's something we'll talk about later when we tear this apart. It definitely does not have any clips. It just has a lot of screws to remove the body, which, you know, make it feel like something that you'd get at Walmart with how many screws you remove to get inside of those. Other than, say, like a Traxxas UDR or some of the other ones. But kind of a bummer that it's not like the Rock Van, which had clips, but they were hidden. Oversized internal beadlock wheels are 1.2 inches. Oversized tire, 1.2 inches. Chassis mounted servo with pan hard bar, high torque tranny, 104:1, final drive ratio, PPX4 standard water resistance, electronics, aluminum chassis rails, 1.2 thickness Lexan body, tightest turn radius of 80 centimeters. Long run time up to 45 minutes. All that's really cool. We'll give those guys that like to peep all the stats and specs. And for those of you guys that like to peep all the specs and all that, we'll let you just pause this and take a quick look at it. But yeah, it gives a whole bunch of kind of the numbers involved with lengths and widths and all that. Lots of molded plastic on here. If you want to look up closer, we'll give you a little bit closer look of everything. Molded windshield wipers up front, molded grille, and guard up front here. You've got the little box on the side, toolbox on the side. Got your jerry cans on each side. A big old work box in the back, which actually holds your battery. On-off switch, unfortunately, just like bam, there it is. On-off switch. On the other ones, they tucked them up in places, and I feel like that could have been in a better place than right there. However, it is cool that it slots on here, which I wish that Castle would do for how much some of their stuff costs. Having it to be able to just slot into their ESC, so that double-sided tape just does not keep these things in a basher in place. But we're not talking about Castle right now. We're talking about HobbyPlus's really cool CR18P. We'll talk about some of this, kind of give a once-over look at the box real quick, some of the specs on there, and then we'll get it out and we'll take it out on my backyard trail, which is wet right now. It's snowing again, and so it's what I've got to live with. My indoor stuff isn't big enough to really run this on, and it doesn't really show you guys any performance of it. So we will do the quick tabletop view of it on that little piece of cardboard, basically, that Kyosho makes that you can crawl on the terrain. And we'll show it in here before we get out there and get the tires all wet and muddy and gooey. But the compound feels pretty good. It does. If there's foam in there, I think there is. It's very soft. You don't really feel it when you're squeezing together, but it does feel like there is some when you're pushing against this way. So I could be wrong, but it feels like it. They are bead locks. So the wheels themselves have screws on the inside, so we could take them off and look and see if there's foams. Not going to do that right now. Maybe I'll put it down in the description below. There are foams in here. You've got these cool little caps that go over the nuts here. Just kind of give it that scale look by not seeing this axle stub stick out with all the threading. That's pretty cool. Mirrors, they've got like a plastic style mirror in here that definitely is reflective and is more than just kind of a sticker. It's stuck on there, but it's definitely a hardened piece in there, so that's pretty cool. Spare usable rear tire here that also has that little screw cap thing on it. Plastic shocks, friction dampers in here. You can see them. They're kind of a gray color their light in there. Portal axles, which you know, a lot of people love that. It definitely is wider, but for an 18 scale, they feel right. But on the 24 scale, when we're running these same portals, they definitely feel wider, but they feel right at place underneath the 18 scale. You can see the wiring is routed up underneath here. So you have working rear lights here that glow red, taped up nicely in here. And then you can see your servo is mounted up in the chassis there. So it's a chassis mounted servo, not on axle. And I really would love to see some hop-ups come for these. Maybe I'll start working on it, seeing if we can get some hop-ups for this lineup. I think it's a pretty fantastic lineup, especially now that Rock Van came out. Really smooth crawling capability, and I think we could do some upgrades to make them even better. So that's something we'll look into here, getting done. So yeah, up in here it's got that 180 size motor, really smooth. We know it from the Rock Van. The biggest bummer about this, and you know, I want to think it's so awesome and everything's perfect on it because I love the stylings of it, but those stylings come at a pretty big cost. There's not a super easy way to just remove this. It's just not going to be the easiest to get in there and work on. I mean, probably the easiest thing to do is remove these and drop out your transmission plate to be able to work on some of that. But they've definitely kind of closed this up more like a toy one that you'd get somewhere else. Even though I feel like this is hobby grade, and maybe somebody else will prove me wrong. I'm just looking around it, and I haven't tried to disassemble it yet because this just came out. There are other mounting points here on the chassis, which is cool. It looks like there's definitely multiple options for where you can mount your shocks if you want to move them forward a little bit. Not a whole lot of room, but there's one on each side of where it's currently placed. It's in the middle on the upper part. You could lower it if you wanted. The amount of travel or flex is actually quite decent for something out of the box, I think. Let's move this out of the way, get it a little further back. I think you can see better if it's at a more of a front-on angle, but it's pretty significant. Anyway, that's a quick look at it. Again, the battery does go up inside of here. You just kind of clip this, and bam, there's your battery tucked in there. I've already got it plugged in, and I've charged it up and have it ready to go so we can do some testing. But I've also got the radio here, which is like in the Rock Van, same thing. So it's got some features to it: steering trims, throttle dual rate, steering dual rate, so you can turn up your steering or turn it down if it steers too much. All that, find your endpoints, set that. Throttle reverses, and then it's got all these patterns that you can do for setting drag brake and all that. Lights are activated by double pressing on the button here. So yeah, it's pretty slick. The manual is here. Maybe I should look in here and see if they show how the body goes on and off. I use the HobbyPlus Rock Van actually to do most of the battery stuff that I needed to charge it and all that. But you can see it comes with a screwdriver because it does use Phillips, small Phillip head on all the hardware. None of it is running the hex hardware. And then you've got this little wrench as well for your wheels and whatnot. So here's this quick look in the manual. All right, it does tell you what those switches will do up here. Number 12, it says dial switch, working mode of electronic dispatching. And so usually they tell you what that is. I'm not seeing it here. So here's how the body is, and then yeah, there's definitely, it's screwed into the chassis and into the front. So it looks like it might only be 2 screws on this side, so about 6 screws to remove it and drop it on and off, and that's not too bad. It's the wiring. So let's actually, you know what? We've got one. We can tell you whether or not it's just that. But it looks like you've got a screw here. Oh, you've got to remove the lights too in order to get to this screw, because they've covered the mount screw. So you have to drop these lights off. That's the first thing we're going to have to do. Alright. I'll leave those threaded in there so I don't lose them. So I do have my mighty handy tool. That would be faster because it's got the spinning base, which just makes it a lot easier. Alright, so mighty handy tool. And yeah, that's faster. You can just spin it like that, drop those out. Now we can get to the screws on the side. I'm just curious for your sake and my sake how quickly we'll be able to remove this if we want to get in here and work on stuff. I'm hoping it is just this easy, because this wouldn't be the end of the world. There's not very often you have to get in here on these, I don't feel like. The only thing that, you know, maybe would be your servo, if you wanted to switch that out. It'd be easier, and to get to your ESC, any big modifications you want to do, but your battery is accessible without that, so that's feeling like it's going to remove. So now we just got to do the bumper. And then I think we're going to be able to take this apart and actually show you guys the inside more. That's what we're hoping, at least. There that went. Oh wow, okay, so, well, more screws than I thought. We have to remove our battery tray here. Which will then expose the screws into those two side toolboxes. That can remove there. And then once we take these off, then we can remove it. So if you were in a quick hurry to get something changed out, this is a lot of screws to remove to get in here, if you ask me. So there. Now we've got it off. One big solid piece. Once it is off, it's actually together pretty well. So that is nice. I wish they would have done some kind of a hinge, even if you had to remove the front bumper, but it hinged somehow on the back here. That'd have been really slick. Because I don't feel like tying this into these is even necessary. I'm not even going to put those screws back in. I'm just going to do the front and the back. And I might not even do the back one where I have to remove the tail lights. I'm probably just going to reassemble it. Let's just start doing that. Let's see where we get to. So I got to make sure I put some stuff back in. But first, here's what we're dealt with. Here's our transmission, plastic links. I haven't talked about the links. Aluminum chassis. The support of this comes from the back end here. So this bridges it and keeps it from flexing like this. These look like they'll slot in here anyway, and so I don't need to screw them in because they'll kind of grip into the chassis there, keep them from spinning. But they've got their so many different light options and things that they put into these Fly Sky radios, or it's kind of a dual ESC and receiver. Again, the motor's there, servo's tucked up here, which you could actually access without removing all this because the screws are from the bottom. You could drop it in, except for having to route your plug into here. But you can see it doesn't use a, oh yeah, it does use a typical one. They've got an adapter, so you could easily change out your servo to other ones if you wanted. And yeah, pretty cool. Well, now we'll work on the reassembling part of this and try to get all this back together. We've got to route our wires back through here. And then get everything lined back up. Main thing, I want to make sure these side ones click in here before I start buttoning it all up, because I don't want to screw them back in. So I'm going to go ahead and route these cables. So we put our plug back on the side. This one comes over the top, and then we're just going to screw our battery tray back on. That way we will not have to remove this in the future. So take this apart. Trying to make this as quick as possible for reassembly. So I'm going to put one of the sides in here and the other one. Several holes back there. I wonder why they chose that one. They could have used this one here. In fact, we might just try to thread it in there. Get a little drill at some point. Because there's this hole right here as well that we could use instead of... So there's one there, but they used that one, which is hidden behind this brake. I don't know that it's going to be necessary anyway. And we'll screw this one back on, and then we'll work on putting the front bumper back in. And now it'll just take 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll be able to get in here. And that just flexes out like that. Okay, so back to hobby grade. No longer toy type construction for me. Or I guess super model construction. This is going to be more of a go out and run it type of vehicle, and that's what I want it to be. And I want to have access to building and working inside it. So we've made it that way now. Their screwdriver would make this take a lot longer to do, but you can definitely do it. But I like these because I can sit here and just kind of use the pressure against my hand, and it spins on the base. So I will also say that these hang on the TRX4M mounts that I have, the wall brackets. I've tested it, and they're hanging in my basement. I've got the rock fan hanging on one. All right, I feel like it's rigid. These are rigid. Everything's good, and we saved ourselves 4 screws, 2 in the back and 2 up underneath here. Both require us to remove parts that we shouldn't have to remove in order to take the body off. And now we've done the first mods to our car, and we haven't even taken it out for a drive yet. Luckily, it doesn't impact how it handles, so it'll still drive just like as if you didn't do what I just did. If you don't plan on working on the car, you don't need to do that. But if you like to get in there and you like to change things, you want to change your motor out, put a baby Goliath in there, hint, hint, you know, you'd want to have that. So the servo actually feels pretty good. You can see slow crawling capabilities are on point. I'm going to go grab one of my mats. Let's crawl this thing. Then we're going to take it outside while we got a little bit of daylight. Oh, we're bright. Glowing. We're driving it on the sun. All right, here it is, you guys. The CR18P Hunter on the rocks. Right away, getting off to a little bit of a tough start. Taking the hard way. I love the looks of this thing. As you can see, we're losing our daylight here. Kind of late night run. See if we can make this little gap here. A little bit of bumper in the way. Can we change our approach, get that wheel on? Tire up? No. That's a hard spot to be in. None of them have been able to do that yet. Change our approach. Come down here a little bit more. We can get the tires on. There we go. The steering is pretty impressive on it. It's got a lot of turning radius. Looks so good with those lights, tell you what. It's kind of the shot right there. I just love slow crawling, so if this isn't your driving style, you may have to check some other videos, because I just prefer to just kind of creep, set up my lines. It's getting a little slick, I can tell. Getting a little of that mud on the tires, a little water. Just pushing off that rock a little. I might not have had the best line coming in either, but that's the approach I wanted right there. Here, we'll go see the other side. Here's why I wanted that approach. Right there. Splitting the rocks, coming over. Gotta make the turn. Nice. Nothing too difficult here coming out. Had a lot of kind of wash away of our parts of our track there. This way still has some pretty difficult obstacles that haven't washed away yet. Let's see if this can do what the rock band did. Nice turn. Get up here, and I'm going to turn our way up and try and split over this. I think it's even slicker today than when we did it with the rock band. If it'll spin its way around, we might be able to reset. All right. Come up here, get our tires on, see if we get any grip. Oh, it's got it. Gotta hook that. Nice. Very well done. The clay isn't sticking to the tires as bad as I thought it would, but it's definitely sliding on the clay. It's a very slick surface. So we're having a little trouble lining things up and having to take multiple approaches to get it right. And then it's just slipping. There it goes. There we go. Try this approach like that. Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. So, handles, even with the course being a little bit problematic right now because of it being winter and snowing on us at the moment, it still did pretty good. So I am excited about this one. I love the looks of it, and I just had the van out driving it the other day and was enjoying that. I think that HobbyPlus has really got a solid platform, and for right out of the box they handle really, really good. So I had that one rollover, but that was a pretty tough object there to get over. So and I was trying to reset in a kind of a weird way, and yeah, so I blame me a little bit for it, but it feels pretty planted, I'll say. I love watching it drive. I love the look of the body. Just gonna have it come up over this here as we were sitting here talking about it. So I thought that might look pretty cool. But I'm surprised, even with the wet tires. but the slow crawling right out of the box is nice with some torque. This motor's really nice for it, for a ready to run, guys. Anyway, that's a quick look at the HobbyPlus CR18P Hunter. You can get it in this kind of army green, or they've got it in like a sand color. But I'm super glad to have something of this styling in this small scale. Pretty pumped about it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in as always, guys. Have fun RCing. Catch you next time. Just going to clean the tires, guys. And the power that it has when I'm pushing against it is insane. It's a nice motor. Nice motor out of the box.